Holiday shopping gets way more complicated once kids start asking for connected gadgets instead of toys. Phones, tablets, gaming systems, they all look very exciting in the box. But what happens after that wrapping paper lands on the floor is where the real work begins. Today we're talking through the steps every family should take before those devices get powered on, the expectations kids need from the start, and easy to miss settings that make a big difference and help keeping them safe. If tech gifts are on your list this year, or your kids' list, this is the episode you'll want to hear before anything gets unwrapped.
So we're jumping into the holiday season. I think that what's most important that I want to make is like a disclaimer is that these are things parents should think about whenever they're gifting their kids tech, not just around the holidays, but birthdays or, a random like, hey, you did a really great job. Here's how I'm rewarding you.
8th grade graduation.
Yes.
Yeah.
You name it. There's probably an opportunity to gift tech. What are some things that parents need to do before they even wrap that device, be it a phone, a tablet, gaming console, whatever it might be?
I would say the first thing that parents need to do is to research the device. Specifically, research the available parental controls. Nintendo DS, for example, is a huge wish list item, and thankfully Nintendo has done a good job of updating their built-in parental controls. But you need to know, A, what's available, and even more so, how kids can turn them off. Does the device or console or game or app give parents full control, or does it let parents set things but then let kids turn them off? And if you're like, I don't even know where to look for that, reach out to us. Join the Parenting in a Tech World Facebook group. Ask over 650,000 parents in that group. We'll help you figure out what's actually safer tech. Also, Googling the name of the toy plus dangers can also be really eye-opening. I recently saw, I think last week, there was this stuffed animal that had AI built in that was having inappropriate sexual dialogue with kids. And it's like, so we don't want to buy that.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, I think making yourself aware of what the potential dangers are beyond them just having this new shiny device and like, what parents think they need to know. There's so much more that could possibly be there.
And also, this made me think of this because it's like the easiest, non-expensive, because it's free tip ever. And that's to set those ground rules in your head before you set them with your kid. Because sometimes when you tell your kid things and they push back a little, you're like, well, maybe we don't need to be that harsh. You need to go ahead and figure out what you're going to remain firm on. Yeah. And what you need to remain firm on is no connected tech in the bedrooms behind closed doors overnight. We made the mistake of letting our son keep a PS5 in his bedroom, which was one of the dumbest parenting mistakes ever. And I own that. Like I could have and I should have done better. So amazing gift, PS5. Thank you to every relative that went in on that. But like, we shouldn't have kept it in his room.
Right. That kind of goes into one of the questions I want to touch base on is like, sometimes parents, and probably not just sometimes, oftentimes, majority of the time, they're feeling the pressure to keep up with whatever tech their kids' friends have. How can families slow down and make thoughtful decisions when it comes to like their child specifically being ready for whatever the tech is?
The keep up with the Joneses culture is even more powerful now that we're all comparing our best lives on social media. And I understand the pressure to want to give your kid an iPad because their friends have one, or want to give your kid an iPhone or that gaming console or whatever. And again, you have to set your boundaries first in your mind and heart of like, here's what I think my child is ready for, and here's what I don't think my child is ready for. It doesn't matter if, quote, all of their friends have it. Because all of their friends don't. Maybe the majority do, but all of them don't.
Right.
And you have to do what's best for your child. Unfortunately, we're still in a space where a lot of parents either don't fully realize the dangers or don't believe that they're going to affect their children. We know because of our work at Bark,
right,
our annual report, our data, the anecdotal bits that we get from parents at speaking engagements all over the country, we know that the risk far outweighs the reward. So don't fall a victim to but everyone else has it. And I don't want my kid to be left out, because I get it. I didn't want my kid to be left out either. So I gave him access to things that he should not have had access to. And as a result, it negatively impacted his mental and physical health. And nobody wants that. In fact, I wish I could have let him be left out of those things for longer, and instead work to prioritize more in real life opportunities to build those important relationships. Now, we were going through COVID at the time and nobody could see anybody. So we also had that going against us. But thankfully, we are not in that space anymore. So parents listening today can just say no or not now. If it is time, if your kid is old enough, if your kid is mature enough, if you do want to experience certain things with them, right? Like maybe you guys want to game together. That's cool. Just make sure you're doing it together and in the common areas of the home. And you have responsible time limits. Like maybe no tech during the week, but like on the weekends, you can have some fun.
Yeah. You're kind of starting to touch on this, which was my next question is like, again, majority of the time, I'm going to say probably 100% of the time, a kid gets a shiny new device, especially as a gift. You know, they're given it maybe even without having earned it necessarily. And they want total freedom with that device. How can parents set some expectations early without making the gift feel too restrictive or negative? Like there's got to be a fine line there.
Oh, I love this question. You know, as you were asking me, something that popped into my mind was, do not give them the Wi-Fi password. Just period. The kids should not have the Wi-Fi password. Whenever anything that they can connect to wants to connect to Wi-Fi, you need to be the one that has it. Don't make sure they can't see over your shoulders.
Right.
Make sure like they're not taking tape and like sticking it on the screen to lift up your actual fingerprint so they can replicate. Like they're savvy.
Yeah.
And you have to be savage.
Yes.
So, yeah, no Wi-Fi password for the kids. I actually got so engrossed in that question, I forgot the full question. Okay, I think I'm recalling it back now.
Yes.
Setting those boundaries of like location, like,
right.
And yes, it's a gift, but it's like, I'm going to use a chainsaw analogy. Well, maybe not. Maybe. Let me think. What's something like, okay, so, let's say your kid's like 12 and they're really into woodworking and you might get them like a really sharp knife. Well, clearly it's not just a free-for-all, right? A knife can kill somebody or seriously injure somebody, or they can get in trouble if they try to bring it onto a plane or to school. So it's like, this is a gift, but this carries a great deal of responsibility. And so you've got to have some parameters and boundaries. Same thing with a tech. Leading up to the gift, having multiple candid conversations around like, here's the potential of how this can go wrong or be bad, hurt you, hurt others. So if we follow these rules, we can keep this gift. But if we don't follow these rules, we're going to, have to put the gift away for a little bit,
right,
and try it again when there's some more maturity and responsibility that we think you've earned.
Yeah. And I think one thing that we talk about a lot too, this is probably like a great time to like write out a tech contract with your kids. And it's something that's not just what the kids are held accountable to, but also something that like mom and dad can be held accountable to as well. And like it kind of keeps the whole family honest.
100%. And like by mom and dad, like if you're always on this thing and you're like, you've had too much screen time, but face back down on the phone.
Right.
That's not going to work.
Yeah.
You really have to work to model appropriate tech boundaries that you are living so that they can say, or they can't say, but mom, you do that.
Right. Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah, I'm sure. We started to talk about this a little bit, but a lot of the online risks aren't obvious until they're starting to use these apps, or they're messaging their friends, or they're gaming. What are some of the commonly overlooked dangers that parents might not be aware of or know about that they definitely need to make sure they're educating themselves on before they're gifting this tech?
I think a lot of parents, if they aren't gamers themselves, don't realize that mostly every gamer app now is social media because it allows you to be social with other people online. You can chat, sometimes live. or live stream your face, your likeness, your video. Use emojis, use GIFs that sometimes can be inappropriate, share location, access the internet. Like you could be playing in a game, but then you see an ad, you click on the ad, all of a sudden you're in Chrome or Safari.
Right.
Like there's portals to other places and people that you might not realize are happening. So you need to spend time on the device, in the console, in the game where your kid is spending time. A lot of games now are starting to offer parental controls. In fact, I was just speaking to Fox in Houston, Texas, about the fact that Roblox released facial recognition to help determine a child's age. They can group children into age-appropriate experiences, which I very much applaud.
Yep.
And anyway, I'm just saying that a lot of these apps and games that your kid uses have built-in parental controls that are free. You just have to take a minute to Google them and figure out how to turn them on.
Right.
And make sure your kid can't turn them off.
Yeah. That it's like you read my mind with my questions. A lot of families, they unwrap this gift and they just kind of assume that the default settings are good. There's nothing they need to do beyond that. Like they just kind of put their trust in the device. Like that's like just being like, oh, Apple uses family screen time. It works. It's great.
No.
And we know that that's not the case.
No.
What are some of the biggest default settings that parents should probably pay attention to right away when they're setting it up?
Sure. So outside of not having connected tech in the bedrooms or behind closed doors, setting screen time limits is key. Humans don't need to be on any connected tech for more than 2 consecutive hours at a time. We all need brain breaks and body movement breaks. I would say a lot of kids need way less than 2 hours. So setting screen time limits either through your internet service provider, the device, the game, the app, or through tech like the Bark Home that can help set time limits as well as filters, which is next, right? So first location, then time limits, then filters. If for some reason you haven't safeguarded every little thing, one thing that you can do is make sure that, sexually explicit content, rated R content, that sort of content is blocked. Now, is it 100% foolproof? No. But is it really powerful? Yes. So setting content filters, again, through your internet service provider, through the Bark Home. If you are gifting your child the Bark phone, you don't have to worry about that because it comes as safe as possible. And then you can work actually to unlock and open access versus having to do the reverse of locking down everything that you think you might know. Location, time limits, filters. Think outside of those like technical aspects, then the relational of like, even if mom, dad, babysitter do all these things, there's still a possibility that you might encounter something confusing, disturbing, scary, intriguing online that isn't good for your heart or your mind. And so let's have a game plan for this. I want you to know that you can come to me. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to punish you. But I want to be your safe space. I am your safe space. So let's talk about this. For example, if you're gaming with somebody that allows chat and they're starting to ask you things like where you live and where you go to school, that's a red flag. You don't have to stop playing that game, but I need to know so we can report that person because that's a tricky person who could be trying to hurt you or other kids. We need to get them off this platform. So lots of conversations.
I love it.
For those families who are well off enough or have saved up enough money to gift their child, let's say, a car for a birthday or the holidays or whatever, like you get a car, brand new, used, whatever, like you get a car. That's awesome. That's a gift. But major responsibility, right?
Right. If
If you go to a party and drink and drive home drunk, underage, that gift is no longer yours,
Right.
You lose that gift. If you get too many speeding tickets, if you have too many accidents because of reckless behavior that was your fault, like with, what is that Spider-Man quote? With great responsibility comes great, yes, I always mess it up. It's perfect in my head, but then I try to say it out loud. But yeah, with great power comes great responsibility, whether that's a car, a chainsaw, a knife, or a smart device.
Right. And I think that we're still kind of getting to that point where parents are looking at those as the same thing. And it's important and necessary to look at them at the same thing. You know, the second you hand them a device, and especially if you're not, you know, thinking about any sort of protections on it, they have access to the world. And one thing that we also always say is that then means that the world has access to them.
Yes.
And that's just a concept that should be more thought about, I guess. Just that's a big statement.
Huge statement. And it's so important to reiterate. I know we've said this a few different times, a few different ways, but like, this is not just a toy or a form of entertainment or a communication tool. This has the power to end lives. This has the power to significantly damage your mental and physical health. It is very powerful. And if you don't believe me, feel free to research what these things do to your brains. The science that went behind creating these things to be addictive is really fascinating. In fact, I was just reading a book called, I think, Human History on Drugs, and every chapter is about a different key figure that, you know, did drugs, Steve Jobs including one of them. And there was a quote in there that I'm paraphrasing grossly, but essentially, he wanted this iPhone to elicit the same reaction as a loved one, so that when you weren't around it, you had literal separation anxiety. Success, right?
Yeah.
They've succeeded.
He did it.
So, like, do you want to give your kid an iPhone?
Yeah.
Or do you want to maybe opt for safer tech that is way less addictive and doesn't put them in harm's way and doesn't let them take nudes? Like, this thing will let your child take nude photos and videos, store it in the iCloud.
Yep.
That's child sexual abuse material, and that is illegal. The Bark phone does not.
And I think, you know, we're entering an era where parents are more mindful of the tech that they are giving their kids or how much they're allowing them. I think it's unfortunate that these big companies just kind of continue to ignore it, pay no attention to it. Like, you know, you think about a company like Apple and the brilliant people that they have working for them and the things they could possibly do. I mean, I think we probably have some of the best engineers in the world, and we build amazing tech that's much safer for kids. And they're a small but mighty team making really, really big and important things happen. So it's just frustrating to still be in this point where, you know, parents are waking up, kids are even being smarter about it now. And, you know, you see more and more of them. They're like, I don't really want to be on my device, or like, I don't, you know, it's becoming less of a thing. But for some reason, these big tech companies still, they're just operating as usual.
Yeah, it's sad. And that's an understatement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stronger words I could use, but try to keep it PG here.
Yeah. All right. So we've covered a lot when it comes to gifting kids tech, be it the holidays, a birthday, a big graduation, or, you know, they're just reaching a point where it's time for them to have a device. Anything we didn't cover or any last, you know, pieces of advice you can share for when the time does come to gift your kid tech, what parents should be prepared for, aware of, and not just advice that sets the kids up for success, but also, you know, for the parents and for the parent and child to navigate it together.
I would say be prepared to not recognize your child, meaning they are going to become an addict. And rightfully so. You gave them something very addictive, and that will be the thing. Their toys, their books, their playgrounds no longer as fun.
Wow.
Because what you've given them spikes their dopamine like 10x higher than all that other stuff. Be prepared to not have an addict in your home, and have a plan for if we start to see behaviors that are disrespectful, or again, like that of an addict coming off of something, here's how we're going to manage it, and bring them into the loop. You know, like, obviously Christmas morning, you don't have to be like, here's a thing, but blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But like over the next few days, you can be like, now this is a really powerful gift. And if we see X, Y, and Z, right? If you are having trouble getting off of it when it's time, If you aren't finding the same joy in the things you used to before you got this, we're going to need to recalibrate a little bit. Help to understand the science of the brain and dopamine. Show them a picture. You just go on Google and type in brain scan of an addict and show them how the brain changes, literally. Right. And I think that can help them to understand, like, even though this feels good and they want it, well, so does ice cream. But they aren't allowed to have 4 bowls of it for dinner.
Right.
I don't think, right? So that's why, you got to have everything in moderation. You're not a bad parent. You did not fail. Because you've listened to this, you have more information, you can be empowered, but don't be afraid to be the parent. You are the parent. And man, summertime, holidays, like, it's so easy to just let everybody veg out on screens because it keeps them quiet. And that can be really nice in the midst of peace and stress. But while it takes some effort and some strength to be like, we're going to have some screen-free time and you're going to maybe be bored, that's okay. You will find something to do and it will be better for you.
Love it.